what's the connections that you're drawing in your research between sports performance and exercise and music?
Well, everything that you've said there, Steve, is extremely salient. And of course, well-chosen music, if you take the music of John Williams or Vangelis or Bill Conti, can greatly heighten sporting imagery. Um, and you mentioned yourself that sometimes when you watch those montages of peak sporting performance set to music, you feel the piloerection, you feel the hairs rising on the back of your neck. And both the sporting images and the music can heighten our emotions, and they can manipulate our emotions. Those composers who have worked on film scores, for example, have an intimate knowledge of how music can be used to influence people's emotions. So when you're talking about sporting imagery and musical stimuli, marrying the two can create a really intense emotional experience for the viewer and for the listener. Um, Through the medium of film, what we see a great deal in the application of music in sport is this notion of extra musical association. And if I break that down into simple scientific terms, it's a type of classical conditioning wherein, for example, you associate the protagonist, Rocky Balboa, or whoever it might be, overcoming adversity, sprinting up the steps of the museum in Philadelphia, raising his arms aloft, and that background music, do 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 do. And sometimes when you hear the music and the images are not present, of course, the music conjures images of those heroic deeds. The music forms an emotional tag. And the interesting thing about music as an artistic stimulus is that it forms a superhighway to our memories. And often as a psychologist, when I've worked with athletes and they're going through a rough patch, maybe they've had a period of injury or haven't been able to recreate the form of old, or are having some issues in their private lives, I will often go through their music library with them and try and find one or two pieces of music that encapsulated when they were experiencing peak performance in their careers, and try to use those as a backdrop for imagery and as part and parcel of a pre-event routine. So personally, I've found that to be a very effective intervention that I've applied on numerous occasions. And just to touch on one other really interesting thing that you alluded to, Steve, sometimes it is the job of the athlete to make the audible visible. If we take a celebrated gymnast such as Beth Tweddle, and we watch one of her rhythmic gymnastics routines, it's almost as though that you can see the music in her actions. Or if we think back to the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in Sarajevo, and that historic moment of Torvill and Dean, where they used Ravel's Bolero, that classic piece, and how it became fused in the public consciousness because they were able to portray the intricacies of the music so beautifully, in such a way that it was so accessible that it took your breath away, that those particular moments also remain in the memory, and serve to characterize that strong relationship between music and athletic endeavor. But that is an example of embodying the music and using the music to direct your physical actions. There are many other types of music application that we've used experimentally, and that we've used in our applications with athletes that we might touch on today. Of course, you can use music as a pre-event stimulant or sedative. You can use it ambiently in the background just to create a better mood. And latterly, we've been experimenting with the notion of post-task music, where music is used to expedite and speed up recovery.
Right.
And maybe we can enter some of the mechanisms and the processes involved with that.